If I'd only the heart to throw up what's been set going, such a lot of trouble wasted, turn my back on the whole business, sell up, go off like Nikolai Ivanovich to here _la bella len said the landowner, a pleasant smile lighting up his shrewd old face. But you see, you don't throw it up, said Nikolai Ivanovich Saviashki, so there must be something gained. The only gain is that I live in my own house, neither bought nor hired. Besides, one keeps hoping the people will learn sense. Though, instead of that, you'd never believe it, the drunkenness, the immorality. They keep chopping and changing their bits of land. Not a sight of a horse or a cow. The peasant's dying of hunger, but just go and take him on as a laborer. He'll do his best to do you a mischief, and then bring you up before the justice of the peace. But then you make complaints to the justice too, said Saviashki. I lodge complaints? Not for anything in the world. Such a talking, and such a to-do, that one would have cause to regret it. At the works, for instance, they pocketed the advance money and made off. What did the justice do? Why, acquitted them. Nothing keeps them in order but their own communal court and their village elder. He'll flog them in the good old style. But for that there'd be nothing for it but to give it all up and run away. Obviously the landowner was chaffing Saviashki, who, far from resenting it, was apparently amused by it. But you see, we manage our land without such extreme measures, said he, smiling, Levin and I and this gentleman. He indicated the other landowner. Yes, the thing's done at Mihail Petrovich's, but ask him how it's done. Do you call that a rational system? Said the landowner, obviously rather proud of the word rational. My system's very simple, said Mihail Petrovich, thank God. All my management rests on getting the money ready for the autumn taxes, and the peasants come to me, Father, Master, help us. Well, the peasants are all one's neighbors, one feels for them. So one advances them a third, but one says, remember, lads, I have helped you, and you must help me when I need it, whether it's the sowing of the oats, or the hay cutting, or the harvest, and well, one agrees, so much for each taxpayer, though there are dishonest ones among them too, it's true. Levin, who had long been familiar with these patriarchal methods, exchanged glances with Sviashky and interrupted Mikhail Petrovitch, turning again to the gentleman with the grey whiskers. Then what do you think? He asked. What system is one to adopt nowadays? Why, manage like Mikhail Petrovitch, or let the land for half the crop or for rent to the peasants, that one can do only. That's just how the general prosperity of the country is being ruined. Where the land with serf labor and good management gave a yield of 9-1, on the half-crop system it yields 3-1. Russia has been ruined by the emancipation. Sviashky looked with smiling eyes at Levin, and even made a faint gesture of irony to him. But Levin did not think the landowner's words absurd. He understood them better than he did Sviashky. A great deal more of what the gentleman with the grey whiskers said to show in what way Russia was ruined by the emancipation struck him indeed as very true, new to him, and quite incontestable. The landowner unmistakably spoke his own individual thought, a thing that very rarely happens, and a thought to which he had been brought not by a desire of finding some exercise for an idle brain, but a thought which had grown up out of the conditions of his life, which he had brooded over in the solitude of his village, and had considered in every aspect. The point is, don't you see, that progress of every sort is only made by the use of authority, he said, evidently wishing to show he was not without culture. Take the reforms of Peter, of Catherine, of Alexander. Take European history. And progress in agriculture more than anything else, the potato, for instance, that was introduced among us by force. The wooden plow too wasn't always used. It was introduced maybe in the days before the empire, but it was probably brought in by force. Now, in our own day, we landowners in the serf times used various improvements in our husbandry, drying machines and thrashing machines, and carting manure and all the modern implements, all that we brought into use by our authority, and the peasants opposed it at first, and ended by imitating us. Now, by the abolition of serfdom we have been deprived of our authority, and so our husbandry, where it had been raised to a high level, is bound to sink to the most savage primitive condition. That's how I see it. But why so? If it's rational, you'll be able to keep up the same system with hired labor, said Sviashki. We've no power over them. With whom am I going to work the system, allow me to ask? There it is, the labor force, the chief element in agriculture, thought Levin. With laborers. The laborers won't work well, and won't work with good implements. Our laborer can do nothing but get drunk like a pig, and when he's drunk he ruins everything you give him. He makes the horses ill with too much water, cuts good harness, barters the tires of the wheels for drink, drops bits of iron into the thrashing machine, so as to break it. He loathes the sight of anything that's not after his fashion. And that's how it is the whole level of husbandry has fallen. Land's gone out of cultivation, overgrown with weeds, or divided among the peasants, and where millions of bushels were raised you get 100,000, the wealth of the country has decreased. If the same thing had been done, but with care that. And he proceeded to unfold his own scheme of emancipation by means of which these drawbacks might have been avoided. This did not interest Levin, but when he had finished, Levin went back to his first position, and, addressing Sviashki, and trying to draw him into expressing his serious opinion. That the standard of culture is falling, and that with our present relations to the peasants there is no possibility of farming on a rational system to yield a profit. That's perfectly true, said he. I don't believe it, Sviashki replied quite seriously. All I see is that we don't know how to cultivate the land, and that our system of agriculture in the serf days was by no means too high, but too low. We have no machines, no good stock, no efficient supervision, we don't even know how to keep accounts. Ask any landowner, he won't be able to tell you what crop's profitable, and what's not.